Do you remember those times in your life when you had to move? You moved from one city to another city, or you moved from one home to another home, or you helped your parents move. They'd been in a home for 50 years and were downsizing, and you went to go through 50 years worth of stuff and help them move. Or here's a ritual of passage. Hapless parents have to help their college kids move from their home to their dorm, and then at the end of the year from their dorm to their home, and they bring with them stuff, boxes of stuff, duffel bags of stuff, which wind up in all the living spaces and the basements and the attic and the garage. What a tzimmus it is to move. Well, here's the good news for you. We can purchase a solution to the tzimmus that is moving on the open market, and I am here this Shabbos morning to recommend a particular moving company. The name of this moving company is College Hunks Hauling Junk. That's the name. Now, I can't actually vouch for how good the company is, but I can tell you I just love the name. One day, I'm driving around and I see this huge van with this name, College Hunks Hauling Junk. And I said, that's my company. And I got home and I went online, and I'd like to read you. I'm on a commission basis with them. I want to read you from their website. Sit back and relax. The College Hunks, and Hunks is capitalized, have you covered. We can manage your entire moving, including packing, moving supplies, junk removal, assembly, disassembly, and other services as needed. Now let me tell you who could really have used College Hunks. Biblical Israel. Biblical Israel could have really used College Hunks. Because as you know, we just started Bamidbar, their wilderness wanderings, last week. And we know from the last portion in Bamidbar, which is Parshat Maseh, how many times they moved in the desert. And the answer is 42 times. 42 times they had to pack and move and unpack, rinse and repeat 42 times. And here's what made that particularly challenging. At the heart of the biblical wandering encampment was the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And it's a lot of stuff. It's pillars and planks and boards. It's curtains and fabrics and yarn. There's a whole altar where they sacrifice the animals and a ramp running up to the altar. Then there's all the priestly clothing, and then there's all those ritual items like the washing station and the Ark of the Covenant that contains the Ten Commandments. And all of that has to be assembled and disassembled and reassembled. Did I tell you? 42 times. So I'm thinking, if God really loved biblical Israel, God would have given biblical Israel College Hunks. And we find out in our reading this morning, God really does love Israel, because God gave Israel College Hunks. In Parshat Naso, they don't call it College Hunks. In Parshat Naso, they call it Levites. And there are 3 families of Levites who are the designated sacred schleppers of biblical Israel. That is the Gershonites and the Merarites and the Kohatites. They are the sacred schleppers of Israel. Now here's what I want to read something to you, but first I just have to frame this rule of Torah interpretation. You ready? Here's the deal. Very often, the drier the passage, the juicier the message. The drier the passage. When you encounter a passage and you say, oh my God, that is just dry, I'm telling you, hang in there, because there is a juicy message. Here's the case in point, but I need to ask you for your patience. because it's going to start off dry. Turns out, biblical Israel didn't have moving vans. What they had was 6 carts that were biblical moving vans and 12 oxen. 2 oxen per cart. 6 carts, 12 oxen. I told you, dry. Here is the passage. Moses took the carts and the oxen and gave them to the Levites. 2 carts and 4 oxen he gave to the Gershonites, and 4 carts and 8 oxen he gave to the Merarites. And the commentary notes, the planks of the tabernacle carried by the Merarites were bulkier than the tabernacle curtains carried by the Gershonites. Therefore, the Merarites were given 4 carts, and the Gershonites were given 2 carts. And then it says, but to the Kohathites, Moses did not give any carts or any oxen, since theirs was the service of the most sacred objects, ki avodat hakodesh alehem, bakatef isa'u. They had to carry heavy things on their shoulders. Now, this story is not only about how did biblical Levites carry things. This asks us a really important question, and it's the question of everybody in the sanctuary this morning. How do we carry things? How do we carry the things we carry when they're heavy? How do we carry the things we carry when they're hard to carry? How do we carry what we carry when they're both heavy and hard and also holy at the same time? It's complicated. And the Torah is going to give us 2 different options. One mode is the mode of the Gershonites and the Merarites. And they're responsible for schlepping their sacred schlepper shoe. But they have a bit of a remove from the heavy stuff. Because they take the heavy stuff and they put it in carts and they give it to the oxen to push. And so they work and they worry, I hope the cart's okay. They worry, I hope the ox is okay. But at the end of the day, there's a healthy distance between the Gershonites and the Merarites and the stuff they carry, because they don't actually carry the stuff. It's the oxen and the carts that carry the stuff. That's one move. But then there's the Kohathites. The Kohathites don't get any oxen. And the Kohathites don't get any carts. The Kohathites have to carry this heavy stuff on their shoulders. It's personal. It's on them. It's primary. They feel it. It's their shoulders that feel it. They're literally straining under the weight of what they carry on their shoulders. They're sweating under the weight of what they carry on their shoulders. And there's no ox and there's no cart. It's on them. That's to carry like a Kohathite. Now, everyone here knows what it's like to carry like a Kohathite. Everyone here is carrying something heavy and hard and painful on your shoulders. If you are blessed to be a parent, but you've got a child who is struggling, oh Lord, you carry that child on your shoulders. Their potential and their promise and their pathos and their pain, it's just on you. You're a Kohathite. It's on your shoulders. And if you have a parent who is elderly, who is suffering the infirmities of aging, who is not what they used to be, and you look at the future and it's not pretty, and they know it's not pretty, and you know it's not pretty, and it just is, and you're just it, and they're just it. You carry that parent, that loved one who is not what they used to be on your shoulders. And it's not just in relationships. It's professional. If you got a business that's struggling, if you got a business that's not thriving, if you got a startup, if you're worrying about how to make payroll, you carry that on your shoulders. And if you're a healer, you carry the people you're supposed to heal on your shoulders. And if you're a volunteer and you work for some mission organization like this synagogue, for example, which runs on volunteer energy, the best organizations run on volunteer energy, and you care and you work, you carry it on your shoulders. Not just the Kohathites. We all carry stuff on our shoulders. But here's the thing. If you carry stuff on your shoulders, there comes a point where it gets too heavy, and it gets too much, and it gets too long, and it gets too hard, and it becomes not sustainable. And so we need the Gershonite Merarite move, which is remove, the remove that renews. We need to find some oxen and carts so that we're not carrying it personally all the time, so that we can be renewed for the long haul. So, to quote or to channel Kohelet, there is a time to carry heavy stuff on our shoulders, and there is a time to find oxen and carts. And there is a time to be all in. I'm going to sleep worrying about this. I'm waking up worrying about this. I'm worrying about this every minute of my day. It's on my shoulders. It's in my heart. It's on my shoulders all day long. And there's a time for remove that renews for the long haul. So these Gershonites, Merarites, Kohathites, oh my God. Oh my God. It's about us. But there's one other way that this story just popped when I read it this year. I'm 62. I've been reading it every year all my life. This year, it popped with a fresh and startling urgency. Question. What is the essential difference between the Israeli condition and the North American Jewish condition? Answer. Israelis are Kohathites. They carry the burden of the Jewish story on their shoulders. They carry the burden of the Jewish past on their shoulders. It's on them all the time. They carry the worry for a Jewish future on their shoulders. It's on them all the time. It's Israelis who are on the front lines. It's Israelis who have been in Gaza. It's Israelis who had to go into Gaza to try to rescue 4 hostages last weekend. It's Israelis who faced the live fire. They're Kohathites. North American Jews, we are Gershonites and Merarites. We also carry, but we have carts and oxen. We give to Israel. We go to Israel. We volunteer for Israel. We lobby our representatives for Israel. We combat anti-Semitism, which is all too real and all too relevant in our lives, and that's all real. But the main dilemma of the Jewish people in 2024 is that so much of the world is fundamentally hostile to the very idea of a Jewish state and of a Jewish homeland, and it is on the Israeli people to maintain the belief and the defense of a Jewish state in a world that is often hostile to the very idea. Now, how do we make sense out of, and how do we make meaning out of the heavy things that we carry and the different ways in which we carry them? So you might think that College Hunks or Gershonites and Merarites and Kohathites, just weighed down by all this heavy stuff, would just be weighed down by all this heavy stuff. But that's not how the story ends. The story doesn't end that way, both because of the Midrash and because of Hebrew grammar and because of our own life experience. Here's the Midrash. The Midrash on our portion teaches us, Aron noseyet nosav, that the ark carries its carriers. In other words, the things that we carry us. And the things that we carry lift us up. That's the Midrash. Now comes beautiful Hebrew grammar. The word for carry is the word of our portion, naso, nun, sin, aleph. This is just so beautiful. That's why I'm a Jew. Nun, sin, aleph. Don't miss this. It has three meanings. Naso. One is to carry. The second is to be lifted up, meaning what you carry lifts you up. It's the same word. And guess what? Third meaning. Guess how you say marriage in Hebrew? Nisuin. Because the ultimate relationship where you got to carry heavy stuff, and the ultimate relationship where you get lifted up by what you carry is marriage. Nisuin. Nun, sin, aleph. Carry heavy stuff. Get lifted up by what you carry. And there's other ways, but the ultimate is marriage. Now, we know that this is true. We know that the things we carry us from life. Because we know that if we're raising kids, it's sa'ar gidul banim. It's the kishka that comes with raising kids, and anybody who's a parent knows that kishka. And we also know that having children in all their complexity is life's greatest joy and blessing. And we know that if we're taking care of our elderly parents, that is kishka that never ends. And it is rewarding in a way that is just so powerful. I can't tell you how many people, so many people, too many to count, have said to me, I'd give everything I had if I could just have one more day, if I could just have one more cup of coffee with my late father, with my late mother. The things we carry us. We know this about being Jewish in America today. Obviously, it's been a horrific year. Obviously, we're aware of markers of Jewish identity in ways that we've never been before. I was working with a couple, inviting them to read the book, The New Jewish Wedding, and I found out from the bride that she took the book, The New Jewish Wedding, on a plane. And for the first time in her life, she was aware that she was reading a book that says The New Jewish Wedding. And for the first time in her life, she thought, should I be reading a book about the new Jewish wedding on an airplane? I've never even thought about that before. And fortunately, she continued to read the book, The New Jewish Wedding, and she noted it was an issue which it had never been. It is heavy being a Jew in a time of rising anti-Semitism, and the things we carry us. Being Jewish gives us infinite meaning and purpose. And so too are Kohathite Israelis. Danny Gordis tells the story. He went to the funeral of Chief Inspector Arnon Zamora. He was the Yoni Netanyahu figure who perished last Shabbos in rescuing the 4 hostages. They were successfully rescued, but he fell, taking live fire, and he succumbed to his wounds, and the funeral was last week. And Danny wrote about it in his column, and he says he and his brother took a get, which is Israeli Uber, to Har Herzl for the funeral. And he said it was a very hot day. And he said there were thousands upon thousands of people. And the get drops him off, and Danny and his brother are walking. They see all these people, such a hot day, such an intense moment. And his brother realizes, darn, I left my cell phone in the Uber. So Danny messages him and says, hey, just dropped us off at Har Herzl. My brother left his phone in the car. Could you please return the phone to my address where you picked us up? We'll pay you whatever you charge. They go to the funeral, and it's long, and it's emotional, and it's weeping. And the last speaker is Arnon Zamora's wife, and there's just like no words. And then at the end of her speech, the last part of this lengthy, emotional, wrenching funeral, she plays a video of their 2 young sons saying goodbye to their father. And you see everybody weeping, and you see these fierce warriors dressed in uniform, weeping. And it's a national catharsis, a national catharsis. And then when they're done with the service, they go home and they're just drained. They're just spent. They've just been at a national moment. There aren't even words for it. And they're not even thinking about the phone anymore, but they get there and behold, the cell phone is back at Danny's apartment. Danny texts the driver, "Thank you so much for the phone. What do we owe you?" "We'll Venmo you." The get driver texts back, "You don't need to pay me anything. You went today to Har Herzl to bury a courageous warrior. Thank you for going." The things we carry us. And the heavier they are, they not only weigh us down, which they do, but they also lift us up. Shabbat shalom.